This is my 1997 Mazda Scrum. It has a Suzuki F6A engine that's in the rear. So basically the alternator died. We know it's the alternator because, so for instance, if you charge the battery and let it sit, the battery holds its charge. And while we were driving, stuff started to die. You'll notice your lights start to dim, your radio going out. Basically that's a sign of the failing alternator, especially if the alternator can't keep up with like increased loads. If you turn more and more electronics on and stuff starts to dim, that's probably the alternator. So the alternator is in the back here under the engine. We'll get more lights later. But we're gonna start over here. So there's the rear driver's side, which is the right-hand drive vehicle tire. So we're gonna remove that wheel so we can access it. So we've got the car jacked up under this rear crossbar and jack stands underneath, and we've got this wheel and tire off. So now there's this case right here over the serpentine. So you have your engine oil dipstick that is just barely attached with the little brackets. That's a Phillips head we're going to remove. And then there are some other bolts, one here, and I think there's one up there that we got to remove this case. So here was the case. So there was the one screw that went to the oil dipstick. Then there were 4 10mm bolts that held it in. And then additionally, there was another 10mm bolt here that was at the bottom of the dipstick. And you see, then you just pull the dipstick out, and I just put some clean cloth in there to clog it so nothing falls in and gets into the oil pan while I'm working. So now we have access to our serpentine belt, and you can see the 3 pulleys should be alternator, just crankshaft, main bearing pulley, and I'm guessing the AC compressor. So I'm going to work on removing this pulley to get the tension off of the serpentine belt. So actually, if you look right here, so here's the alternator, we're at the very top of it. There's a slot, and you can slide that bolt around it. So I'm going to, from the top, remove that bolt, and then I should be able to just rotate the alternator a bit and thereby remove the tension on the pulley and get the alternator out. So here's the old alternator. There were a couple more things than I let on. So in terms of electrical connectors, you have this plug for the voltage regulator. You can sort of press down on the top and pull it out. You have the positive wire coming off that's held on with a 10mm nut. And so then the alternator itself kind of was in the car like this. And so up here, this was the 12mm bolt that was in that sort of slide area. And it turns out you actually have to remove that entire slide bracket. So that bolt sort of went in there. You also had a 12mm bolt here, and then a 10mm bolt down here. And then lastly, 2 more 12mm bolts, one here and one here. And with that, the serpentine belt came loose and the alternator came off. And so now the installation is basically the reverse. So I got this alternator assembly here right off Amazon. I'll put the exact product number for this alternator in the description and the link to this. I found it in a couple different places. It was about $300. And yeah, it looks brand new. So I'm basically just going to put it in the reverse. So the new alternator came with a, I'm gonna guess this is just like a mock pulley, so I had to swap the pulleys. It was a 23mm, also a 15/16 inch in Imperial. You have to use an impact, so I used like a little rubber clamp so I didn't damage it, held it tight, and then used the impact to get it on and off. And now we're ready to reinstall. So this is after the install, and you can see right away I'm reading a much higher voltage. That's telling me that the alternator is working. So now, even with all the accessories running, like my lights, my fan blower, I'm still charging the battery.